You actually know a lot more about people than you think you do. You just haven't been taught how to read the signs they're leaving all the time. So in this explainer, we're going to dive into some of Friedrich Nietzsche's most powerful psychological truths to uncover a skill nobody ever teaches you, how to see what's really going on beneath the surface.
So let's start with one of Nietzsche's big ideas. Every profound spirit needs a mask. Now look, he wasn't trying to be insulting here. He wasn't saying everyone's a fake. He just saw it as a fundamental truth about us. And a bit of a warning. Never, ever confuse the performance someone gives you with the person they actually are.
So that really is the big question, isn't it? If we're all wearing these masks, what exactly are we hiding underneath? Well, that's what we're going to find out over the next few minutes. We're going to take a look beneath that very carefully built surface.
Okay, let's get into part 1, understanding the performance. The very first step to really reading anyone is just to recognize that what you're seeing, that's not the whole story. It's a persona, a role they're playing that's been designed for survival and, just to be accepted.
Think about it like this. The personality someone shows you is really their armor. But here's what's so interesting about this. Most of the time, people aren't hiding from you. They're actually hiding from themselves. They're just acting out a role that's been shaped and reinforced by whatever has kept them safe in the past.
And this is kind of how it works. You see someone who acts constantly superior? Well, they're probably overcompensating for a deep-seated fear of being inferior. And the person who seems almost too virtuous, that might just be a mask for a hidden desire for power. And that person who's overly kind, almost to a fault, they could be absolutely terrified of rejection.
Okay, so this brings us to one of Nietzsche's absolute sharpest tools for reading people: projection. The idea is really simple, but wow, is it powerful. It's basically this. When someone is constantly going after a specific trait in other people, that is a huge, flashing signpost pointing directly at what they're struggling with themselves.
I mean, this just hits the nail on the head, right? We hate in others what we're afraid to admit in ourselves. So here's your takeaway. If you really want to get what's going on inside someone, don't just listen to what they praise. Pay very close attention to what they attack.
All right, so we get it, the mask is there. Let's move on to part 2 and see what happens next. Now we're looking for the cracks, those little moments when that carefully built persona starts to slip and the truth kind of leaks out.
So here's a fundamental truth that explains so many of the weird, confusing things people do. Fear. Nietzsche was pretty sure that people rarely act from pure desire. Way more often, they're acting from this deep, unconscious fear of loss or rejection or just being humiliated.
Let's just think about some of these common behaviors, right? Someone who over-explains everything might be afraid of being misunderstood. The person who has to dominate every conversation could just be scared of being forgotten. And we all know someone who says yes when they really mean no. That almost always comes from a fear of rejection. Once you start looking for the fear, people's actions suddenly make a whole lot more sense.
Now this next one, this is a huge tell, as Nietzsche saw it. He said people betray themselves through exaggeration. It's a sign that the ego is working overtime, desperately trying to compensate for some kind of doubt or insecurity hiding underneath.
Just think of exaggeration as the ego literally trying to scream over its own doubt. It's an attempt to silence a quiet insecurity with just sheer volume. So when someone's statements sound a little too absolute, a little too extreme, that's your cue to start asking, okay, what's really going on here?
And here's exactly how this plays out. You've heard this, right? The person who's always saying, "Oh, I don't care what anyone thinks." Chances are they care a lot. And the one who insists, "I'm always happy," they're probably fighting like hell to hide their sadness. The exaggeration is the signal, and it's almost always pointing to the opposite truth.
Okay, we've seen the mask, and we spotted the cracks. Now for part 3, we're going to the deepest level of all, the wound. This is about connecting a person's behaviors to the story that's going on way beneath their surface, to the root causes of it all.
So, this is really the core question, isn't it? We see all these patterns, these fears, these masks, but where do they actually come from? And this is where we shift our focus from what people do to why they do it. And the answer is powerful. Behavior is biography. People are, more often than not, unconsciously reenacting their past. Their whole personalities are often built around their oldest, most unhealed wounds. They are telling you their life story with every single action they take. Let me just walk you through this simple but really powerful sequence. Imagine this. A child is ignored. Over time, they develop a deep fear of being invisible.
That child then becomes an adult who craves constant attention, not because they're vain, but because of a deep-seated need to finally be seen.
Oh man, this next point is so important. We like to think people argue from logic, right? But Nietzsche was convinced they argue from pain. Those deeply held beliefs they have, they're often just defensive walls built around old hurts. And when you get that, it completely changes the game. You stop reacting to their argument and you start seeing the wound behind it.
Nietzsche had this idea that really people don't change so much as they repeat. They repeat the roles they were forced to play as kids. They repeat the fears they were taught to carry. They repeat the same family dynamics they never really escaped from. And they repeat the exact ways they learned they had to earn love.
So when you put it all together, a person's recurring patterns are like a confession, aren't they? Someone who always ghosts people when things get intimate is confessing a fear of getting close. Someone who's a chronic workaholic is confessing a fear of what might happen if they stop. Their patterns tell the unspoken story of the pain they are terrified of repeating.
So after all this, where does that leave us? Well, this new way of seeing people, it's not a tool for judging them or for control. It's really a path toward genuine understanding. And here's the kicker. In the end, every single pattern you learn to see in other people is actually a mirror. Reading others, truly reading them, inevitably leads you right back to understanding yourself, your own masks, your own fears, your own wounds.
And that's where the real strength is. When you can see the fear behind the bully, or the insecurity behind the arrogance, or the pain behind the critic. That doesn't make you weaker, it makes you unshakable. Because you're no longer getting knocked around by the performance, you're responding to what's real.
So I'm just going to leave you with this one question. Now that you have the tools to see their mask, the real work begins. Can you turn that insight inward and finally see your own?